Hi there, students. I'm XS. That's little x, little s, which stands for extra sweet. Because that's what I am. I'm a Puppy-Sensei and I make Japanese language lessons to help you level up your abilities. I want to rip the band-aid off right away. I've got a little announcement and I would like to start there just so that we're all on the same page. Starting with my next lesson, I'm going to be shifting the format of my lesson videos just a little bit. First and foremost, I'm changing the debut schedule for these lessons. Lessons are now going to come out on Saturdays, not Fridays, and they'll come out every other week, opposite our Puppy-Sensei's Pathfinder Apocalypse episodes. There will also be structural changes to the episode itself. First, I'm getting rid of the quizzes in the episodes. Instead, I'm going to try to do something different. I'm going to start putting out monthly, shorter quizzes that are kind of specific bonus episodes that are going to test you not only on the content of these episodes that'll come out every 2 weeks, but also from my words of the day and my grammar drop series. I'm calling these quizzes Puppy-Sensei's Gold Star Japanese Challenge. You should look for the first one in May. Lastly, and possibly most controversially, I'm going to continue with a trend with my Japanese Lessons with Puppy-Sensei series that I've actually started in the last few episodes. Each episode is now going to be themed on specific content. For example, today we're talking about fighting words. Today's episode is going to be a little bit of a hybrid. I'm shifting into this new style and I'm testing out to see what works and what doesn't work. This is a move away from how I had originally envisioned these lessons, but that's okay. It's completely my belief that we need to be willing to pivot when things are not working as perfectly as we might otherwise have hoped. Trying to strike the perfect tone is certainly a battle. And speaking of battles, title card! Oh, right. Let's get into it. Ikimashou! See, I didn't forget. Oh, wow. Thanks, announcer voice. Alrighty, so as I said before, the theme of today's episode is going to be words related to fighting. A lot of what I'm going to talk about today is going to relate to my admittedly limited knowledge of fighting games. I blame Rico for this. We recently did a Guilty Gear stream and I was like, oh right, there's a whole lingo revolving around fighting game stuff in Japanese, and I should do a lesson on that. And so here we are. Let's start with the word shobu, because it's an interesting word and we hear it a lot in fighting games. So, shobu. This is a super interesting word to me. One of the things that I find so beautiful about the Japanese language is the way that it sometimes seems to move between extremely literal and extremely figurative with regards to the use of kanji. Some kanji are extremely literal in a way that almost makes me rethink reality, like ashikubi means ankle because it's the neck of your foot, which, of course it is. I never thought about that until I learned the word ashikubi in Japanese, and I was like, yeah, clearly your ankle is your foot's neck. Or like hanamizu. Hanamizu means runny nose because it's nose water, because yeah, of course it is. Toshi means investment because it's throwing money. Anyway, then we have words like shobu. So shobu, I've defined here as a match, but let's really dig into it and look at the kanji. So, the sho from shobu is this kanji that we're seeing here. It most often is going to convey the meaning of victory or winning, and it's going to do so across multiple different kanji compounds. The verb katsu is the most common usage. This is a godan verb, and it means to win, right? Katsu is also kind of cool because the homophone for katsu can also mean something like pork cutlet, right? And that's why katsu is often served on days with like big exams or sports matches. Katsu for victory. Very cool. Then we have the bu part of shobu. Ne? You're going to see it in the verb makeru, meaning to be defeated or to lose. But you'll also see it a lot in kind of like math related terms because it can refer to things like negative numbers. It can also be used in meanings that convey the idea of hoisting something heavy on your back or shouldering a responsibility. But in the case of shobu, this kanji is definitely giving defeat. So basically, shobu, right? I defined it as a match, but we can use shobu idiomatically that way. But what it literally means is victory and defeat, winning and losing. And again, I love that because when we compare that to something like hanamizu, nose water, right? We're getting the meaning of shobu, of having like a fight, based on the combination of kanji that mean to win or to lose, which is the outcome of the fight, which is giving us the idea of the battle itself. And I find that really, really, really interesting, right? It's both literal and figurative at the same time, and I just think that that's really neat. Now, shobu is a noun, so of course we can see it in sentences like this one.
この勝負をもらった。
Oh, okay. すごい. All right. So the meaning of this sentence is この勝負, right? この勝負 means this match, this game, this fight, right? And then もらった means something like to have it in your pocket, right? I got this. It's on lock already, right? So it literally kind of means I accept, but in this case, it's much more like, yeah, I got it already. It's in the bag. So the phrase この勝負をもらった can kind of have the vibe of being like, square up, chump, right? I got this. Okay. So, 繰り返してください. I want you to repeat after me. Going forward, anytime you hear me say 繰り返してください, right? That means that I would like you to repeat. So we're going to repeat this sentence together. 繰り返してください. I said it too many times. It doesn't matter. The point is, 繰り返してください. What is this? 5? I don't remember even how many times I've said it. It doesn't matter. I want you to repeat after me. この勝負をもらった。この勝負をもらった。The meaning is, I've got this. It's on lock already. Yeah? I'm locked in. Okay. 勝負 is also a pseudo verb. So before we used it as a noun, but we can also use it as a pseudo verb. And that's the case for many Japanese nouns, right? It can be used along with suru to convey doing that verb. So 勝負する means to do a match, to have a match. We're going to see this in sentences like this one.
じゃあ、次は俺と勝負しないぜ。
Wow. So cool. And I think this is a cool sentence. I like to think that this sentence is pretty close to I've got next. The ore here marks it as something almost definitely said by a masculine fighter or something. But yeah, the ja here means well, all right, okay then. It's basically kind of a filler phrase, right? We usually translate it as well, as in ja mata ne, right? Which is a phrase that means well, later then, right? That's the ja. Ne? So ja here, well, all right, okay then. And then sugi here means next. It can also mean again, but in the context of this sentence, it's definitely next, as in me next. Ore to conveys with me. Like I said, it's a masculine personal pronoun, right? And then the shobu shinai is not negative in this case. It's invitational. It's a similar grammatical structure to shimasen ka, which we learned as something like why don't we do something, right? Lastly, our sentence ends with ze, which is also a very masculine-leaning sentence-ending particle. It's emphatic, making your suggestion feel significantly less optional, right? Okay, so, 繰り返してください. Repeat after me. じゃあ、次は俺と勝負しないぜ。じゃあ、次は俺と勝負しないぜ. That means, right, I got next. The next word that I want to focus on for today is going to be this one. 覚悟. This is another cool word. For as often as I hear this term in fighting games, it kind of looks really innocuous when I just see the kanji. It feels like a really innocent word that I weirdly associate with only violence. I don't know. That's kind of funny. But let's get a better understanding of kakugo before we talk about some use cases, okay? So, you may already know this first kanji, right? It's from the verb oboeru, which is a pretty common verb meaning to remember. The very vague, extremely broad meaning behind this bare kanji expresses the idea of having your faculties about you, which is why we often see this kanji in compounds that have to do with things like being sober or being caffeinated. It shows up in words that relate to having a quick wit or sharp senses. And then the other half of kakugo actually has a pretty similar meaning in truth. It also relates to having your wits about you. It means wisdom and understanding, and it even shows up in the word for enlightenment, which is daigo. As a verb, it can mean something like to notice or to become aware of, to perceive. And when we put these two together into a kanji compound, we get kakugo. We get the sense that this means something along the lines of to be mentally ready, right? To notice your mental preparedness or something like that. And it feels, like I said, it just kind of feels like a very like wisdom-filled, kakugo, I'm gonna meditate on this. And that's why I find it very funny that when I look up kakugo in my corpus, the first hit that I get is this one.
覚悟しろや
This is another very strongly masculine way to say squabble up. I don't know. I have to laugh at this because the constituent parts of kakugo are like wisdom, understanding, enlightenment. But then when you put them together, the vibe that I absolutely get right out the gate is, you want to go, bro? We also see kakugo in this phrase.
死ぬ覚悟でやれ
This means something like, you better be prepared to the level of death. Do it or die trying. Something like that. The phrase that I personally hear a lot in fighting games is this one.
覚悟
Oh,
Oh, sorry.
thank you, announcer voice. I got it from here, honestly.
I'll just go.
覚悟はいい? I like this phrase, and it always makes me think of the Soul Calibur series. Talim, my love. Anyway, this is one of those cases where Japanese is going to use the rising intonation to convey a question. 覚悟はいい? A complete sentence would be something like, 覚悟はいいですか? Are you prepared? But nobody has time to say that in the midst of a battle on the stage of history. I will remind you again, the Japanese that you read in a textbook is often very skewed toward making you sound official and serious and grammatical and professional. But Japanese is a living and vibrant language, and what you learn on the page often doesn't really reflect the real and natural Japanese language that people actually speak. So sometimes sentences don't end in ka even when they're a question. Sometimes they end in rising intonation, just like we hear often in English. I'd like to have you repeat the sentence 覚悟はいい with me. 繰り返してください. 覚悟はいい? 覚悟はいい? Are you ready? Good job. よくできました. You did great. if I continue to teach you nothing but fighting game quotes, we're not going to have time to explore any kind of new grammar, and I want to do that. So let's do a very quick montage of neat fighting game voice lines. Kurae! Eat this! Usually the thing that you're eating is the fist of the fighter, but I hear this a lot. To me, it does sound a little bit masculine, especially when yelled in a voice, but, regardless. Ma, kurae. So, ikuze! Let's go. Let's go. No. That's not right. It's like let's go, but it's more like
Let's go.
yeah, like that. Namen na. Okay, this makes me laugh. There are two things that I want to bring up here. First, I love this phrase. It reminds me of Baby Metal. There's a line on one of their songs that I seriously vibe with, and it's nametara ikanzeyo. This phrase also probably means something like don't underestimate me. The name in namen na and also nametara ikanzeyo probably comes from an older word that could mean something like rudeness. But it's also a homophone for the verb to lick, which is nameru. So both of these phrases could easily mean something like don't be so rude, or don't you look down on me, or don't underestimate me. But I think it's really, really funny to imagine that nametara ikanzeyo means lick me at your own peril. That's hilarious. All right, I said two things that I wanted to say about this, didn't I? So I want you to see this. So, namen na! Namen na! Do you see how I've repeated the ah sound here? That's not grammatical. It really serves no purpose in the phrase. Not really. It's just the way that Japanese recreates the idea of yelling in manga and video games and things like that. You'll often see the vowel sound duplicated when a character is being really emphatic and yelling and being super loud, right? Or, if they're doing a fighting move and they have to do the ah kind of sound as they're doing their punch, right? So actually, I've realized recently that I do this a lot in English. If you've ever been in a conversation with me on Discord and I've been like, thank you, with 21 letter U's at the end of the word you, then honestly, we have manga to thank for this. I can't help it. I picked up the habit and I can't quite break myself of it. So I'm constantly just putting way too many vowels in words. And I really, really think that it comes from words like namen na. Okay, a couple more quick phrases. Keep going. You've got great form. Kakatte koi. Kakatte koi means bring it. It's the te form of the verb kakaru, and that means literally arrive at me, right? Come at me, right? And then it also has the very slangy inflection of the verb kuru, which also means to arrive, and that's in the command form. So literally, come at me, right? It's also very common in fighting games. It's literally the number one hit that I get when I search for Japanese fighting game quotes. Yossha! Yossha! That's a really common fighting game phrase that you really often hear when you score a victory. It means, I won! I did it! Yay! Yossha comes from the word yosh, or also could be from the word Yoshi. Yosh, or yoshi, is really sharply related to the word for good. Remember, good, used to be pronounced yoi, and it still is in plenty of cases. For instance, when you conjugate it, it's going to take that yo sound instead of the e sound, and that's where we get yoshi. This, honestly, to me, is another miss from the American Japanese language education system. Is system the right word here? Like the system that they use to teach Japanese language in America? which is flawed. Whatever. The point is that when I was first being taught Japanese by American teachers, I was told that yosh is an old man phrase that only old men say. At the time, that actually tracked to me because the time that I had already spent in Japan to that point had certainly heard a lot of old men who would say yosh. That was something that was common. I had heard tons of old men say yosh. And so I didn't really bat an eye at it. But now that I've been around longer and I've been speaking Japanese with people more often, I can tell you that I hear yosh all the time and not just old men. We use it to end meetings a lot. Yosh, otsukaresama. All right, then, that's the end of the meeting. Or, all right, then, we're done here. Something like that. Anyway, let's do a little bit of fighting game grammar work before we wrap up today's lesson. For today's grammar, I'm going to teach you how to say something is too much. That's really important when you've been playing Guilty Gear against Rico and you've lost 67 out of the last 72 matches. Love you, Rico! The important grammar structure here that we're going to learn is this one. Sugiru, or sugimasu. Literally, something is excessive. Excess? This is a very convenient suffix that you're going to tack on to other structures to indicate that something is too much, too great, or otherwise overdone. Basically, sugiru is going to form a new compound by attaching to the ends of verbs and adjectives. For verbs, it attaches to the stem. The stem is the mas form without the mas. So taberu becomes tabemasu in the polite form. And then to form the stem, we drop the mas, right? So tabemasu then becomes tabesugimasu. You get the stem, which is tabe, you add sugimasu, and that means to eat too much. Tabesugimasu, right? I ate too much. Or to eat too much. Okay, for na adjectives, it attaches to the end of the adjective in the base form. You don't need the na part. So that would be like, shitsure sugimasu. Too rude. And then for e adjectives, you have to be just a little bit careful here, but sugiru is going to attach to the end of the stem of the e adjective, meaning you drop the e. But if there are two e's at the end of the e adjective, you have to be careful to only drop one of the e sounds. You're going to retain one. Anyway, an example of this would be something like kowasugimasu. That's too scary, right? Kowai, drop the e, add sugimasu, you get kowasugimasu. Kowasugimasu. That's too scary. See, I did it again. Again, too many vowels. I blame you, Japanese language. Let's look at a few cases where we see sugiru in action. Nedan wa takasugimasu. Nedan wa takasugimasu. 繰り返してください。Nedan wa takasugimasu. That means the price is too high. This is probably an extremely common use for sugiru. Here we're seeing sugiru attaching to an e adjective, takai. Takai means tall or high, but it can also refer to something being expensive. The price is high. So here we've got nedan, price, and takasugimasu, too high. I think this is actually pretty easy, right? It's going to hold true for any e adjective, and it just creates a new compound verb phrase because sugiru itself is a verb, and by combining an adjective with a verb, we get a new verb meaning to be excessive in the area of whatever adjective. So, right? Takasugiru, too expensive. Itasugimasu, it hurts too much. That's itai with sugimasu. Itasugimasu, it hurts so bad. Kawaisugiru, too cute. Aha, did you think kawasugimasu? Remember, kawaii is an e adjective with two e sounds. kawaii. Ne? Because it has two E sounds, what you're going to have to do is drop only the last E when you're creating the sugiru form of kawaii. So you get kawaii sugiru, too cute. Now, likewise, we can do the same thing with na adjectives, and it's also going to be super, super easy, right? So, このゲームは簡単すぎます。簡単すぎます. It's just 簡単 plus すぎます. Too easy. Not too much to dissect here, honestly. このゲーム means this game. 簡単 means simple or easy. It's a na adjective, so we're seeing it here affixed to the sugiru suffix to express your dismay that the game settings clearly need to be turned up because you're just mowing through your opponents with your great and amazing skill, right? このゲームは簡単すぎます. The game is too easy. I think that's fine. Creating sugiru sentences with adjectives is, like I said, pretty easy, in my honest opinion. You really just take the adjective, you add sugiru, sugimasu to the end of it. Sugiru would be the plain form, sugimasu would be the polite form. Okay? But we can also create sentences using sugiru to express complex verbs. And that's like pretty cool. So let's check it out. うるせえ! 話しすぎます! This is another very fighting game adjacent phrase. I hear it often, right? It very much sounds like a fighting game phrase. うるせえ means you're too loud. It's from the adjective うるさい, and うるさい means noisy, annoying, or tiresome. And then we have the verb 話す, right? 話す means to talk. Remember, when we form the sugiru form with a verb, we want the stem. So the mas form of hanasu is hanashimasu. And the stem, therefore, must be hanashi, because that's the mas form minus mas. So hanashisugimasu means to talk too much. But I think it's very funny if we translate this sentence, うるせえ! 話しすぎます! Shut up! You run your mouth too much. I don't know. I just think that's cute. Now, you might also want to form the past tense of a sugiru construction, right? You might want to say, it was too much, past tense. Maybe you took too many punches to the head and now you're... I'm feeling woozy here! Well, easy enough. You can form a sentence using the verb 疲れる. 疲れる is a godan verb, so when we conjugate it into the mas form, it's going to become 疲れます. We drop the mas, and then we have 疲れ. We add すぎる to form 疲れすぎる, and then we can use it in a sentence like this one. 頑張ったけど、疲れすぎた. Right? That's in the past tense. Somehow, this sentence makes me feel a little sad. But it's okay. The point is that when we're creating past tense sentences with the sugiru form, we really want to make sure that we're putting the tense on sugiru and not on the modified verb. So however we do it, whether that's in the plain form, 疲れすぎた, or if that's in the polite form, 疲れすぎました. Yeah, we really just want to make sure that our tense is going on the right place. 疲れ is the stem, and it should be in the non-past. Well, sort of. It's the stem, so technically it just doesn't express tense at all. But then sugita is the plain past form, right? Sugimashita would be the polite past form. So we get 疲れすぎた. I was too tired. I was too tired in the past tense. I tried, but I was too tired to do it. Likewise, we could also form a sentence like this one. 頑張ったけど、疲れすぎている。ね。疲れすぎている. I am currently in the state of being just too tired. I did my best, but I'm just too tired. Sugiru here is in the te-iru form, which we previously learned was a form that's used to express ongoing actions. I'm currently in the state of being too tuckered out. The important point is to simply remember that when you want to express tense in a sentence using sugiru, just make sure that you're conjugating sugiru and not the verb that it modifies. Well, so this is going to be the last quiz in this format, so I thought we could have some fun with it. Today, I'm going to give you some direct Japanese quotes from the Dead or Alive fighting game series. And also, I'm going to give you a translation for them. The thing is, my translation is going to be wrong. Can you try to correct my translation? You're both going to have to find the problem and also try to correct it. I'll tell you what though, I want to make this a little bit easier for you, so why don't we do this in stages? I'm going to give you time for each question. Try to identify where the problem is. After a few seconds, I'll highlight the problem. You see if you can fix it. So, first, try to find it, then try to fix it. If you can get both, then you get a gold star. If you can only get one of them, then you still get a gold star. And if you can't get any of them, then you still get a gold star, 'cause I love you. Sounds good? Let's try it. This should be pretty easy, right? Mata ne means see you next time. One more round might be something more like mo ikkai. It could be a little tricky here because mata ne means see you later, and maybe you misinterpreted that as we're going to have another fight later. But yeah, it should definitely be something more like see you next time or something like that. This is fun. More, more. This one might have been slightly confusing, but it's a line that I wanted to include in this episode because shobuatta is something that you do hear a lot in Japanese fighting games. It means the match is over or the match is won. The thing that you should have tried to pick out here was the fact that the verb was in the past tense. Sure, the verb was also followed by not one but two ending particles. Wa, the feminine particle, and ne, the init particle. But still, atta was the only verb in the sentence, and because it ended in ta, the sentence had to be in past tense. So our sentence really should have been this match is decided, right? Past tense. Tricky? I hope not. Okay, next one. Aha! Did you remember that ore is the masculine personal pronoun? It means I, so clearly Ein here was the winner, and he's saying my instincts led me to victory. Cool, but Ein is kind of a crappy character, so let's go back to girls. Now, I know we haven't actually spent too much time talking about the dareru form for verbs. This can be a potential form. So in this case, sakerarenai means I am unable to avoid, right? The point that you might have picked up on here is the fact that the verb is in the negative. It's not have to do something, it's I cannot do something, right? It's a singular negative, and it basically means I am incapable of doing. So have to run would not be right. It's I cannot run from this fight. We just learned these kanji today, right? Katsu means win. Makeru means lose. So, of course, this is a Lisa victory quote, and she's saying, did you really think you were going to win? Right? So, it's win, not lose. One more, okay? Last one from my personal favorite dead or alive character of all time. Look, I know this series is problematic, but I'm not gonna lie. Pretty Girl Kick High. Don't get confused with this one. Nai is a negative form. It means no or not. So, tsuyokunai means not strong. But this is not tsuyokunai. This isn't a nai that we're seeing in this sentence. That na is naru. Naru means to become. So tsuyokunaru means to get strong, to become strong. Tsuyokunaru, to become strong. So the best translation that we could come up with here is I'm getting stronger, not I'm not getting stronger. Or something like I continue to get stronger. He told me he's getting stronger, and you're getting better at Japanese. I am so super proud of you. As promised, you get a gold star for the day. All right, my dear, dear students. Did you learn a bit about how to talk like a Japanese fighting game character? Honestly, I really want to play some Soul Calibur now. I have a weird relationship with fighting games. I'm really not that competitive. Have you maybe picked up on that about me a little bit? Maybe noticed it from my streams? This world is already hard enough. Everything that we do feels like a rat race. Work hard. Try to scrape by some meager existence. Hope that you do better than your peers to get that promotion, get that better grade, get the best partner. This world has way too much competition in it as it is. So often I feel like I don't seek out game experiences that replicate the feeling of competition. If I'm going to play a game, I want to do that because I want to have fun and relax with my friends. Sometimes that means a good natured brawl or two, right? There's nothing wrong with that. I enjoy fighting games from that perspective. But even when I'm playing a fighting game, I usually just turn on gremlin mode and smash buttons because to me, that can totally be fun. I don't really care if I win or lose. I don't really need to be competitive. I'm not, out here trying to win video game competitions or anything like that. But, again, that's just my take. So, I personally really like this evolution that I'm undertaking in my content. I like this new style for my lessons. I really like picking a content theme and just talking about words and grammar that kind of relate to that theme. I was a little skeptical about changing the format too much, but, eh, we'll see what you think in a couple weeks. Oh, by the way, spring has sprung. Do you like my tree? How are you enjoying the weather these days? I look forward to seeing you soon. Mata ne!